Having spent several years as a park ranger at Badlands National Park, I have come to appreciate the unique beauty and ruggedness of this wild terrain. Last summer in mid-July, on an exceptionally scorching day that had the temperature soaring over 100 degrees, I experienced an unusual incident that left an indelible mark on my memory. Badlands is a captivating blend of wild, stark beauty and almost lunar landscapes with its rugged rock formations, sharp cliffs, and jagged spires. Working as a park ranger has its moments of tranquility and serenity, allowing one to truly connect with nature. Yet the job is not always glamorous, as it involves dealing with paperwork, interacting with tourists, and carrying out routine maintenance work. On this particular day, during my usual rounds, I found myself on the Sage Creek Loop, appreciating the breathtaking view across the creek. The day was winding down and the animals were settling in for the night when I heard an unusual sound, a low guttural grunt accompanied by a rhythmic knocking noise. Intrigued, I focused on the westward direction from where the sounds emanated. Despite the oddity, I carried on with my responsibilities, picking up litter left behind by less considerate visitors. However, the sound persisted, growing louder and more insistent. A deep, resonant growl disrupted the otherwise peaceful ambiance of the park, prompting me to abandon my cleanup duties and investigate the source. Descending a slope, my senses heightened as I sought any sign of movement or additional sounds. Strangely, the world around me fell into an eerie silence. The animals, usually at ease, seemed nervous and anxious. As I examined the ground, I discovered peculiar footprints, large barefoot imprints that resembled human tracks but were considerably larger. Following these prints further into the wilderness, my eyes widened at the sight before me. A colossal figure standing at an imposing 9 feet, covered in dark brown, almost reddish hair, stood mere feet away. Its face displayed a mix of human and ape features, with deep-set dark brown eyes that conveyed a surprising intelligence. The creature's countenance told a story of years spent in the unforgiving wilderness. Before I could react, the creature unleashed a deafening roar that sent birds scattering from nearby trees. The power behind that sound was astonishing, reverberating through the deserted landscape. A putrid odor, musty and pungent, enveloped the air. My heart pounded as I backtracked slowly, never breaking eye contact with the massive ape-like being. The creature growled again, its eyes fixated on me until I was safely out of its sight. Returning to the trail alone but unharmed, I questioned my sanity. Had I encountered the legendary Sasquatch? When I reported the incident to my colleagues, they dismissed it as a product of solitude and harsh working conditions. They chalked it up to my mind playing tricks in the changing light of dusk. However, the encounter left an enduring impact on me. Every rustle in the brush now triggers a sense of fear, and every unknown sound feels like an ominous warning in the wild. The solace and serenity I once found in the isolation of the wilderness have been replaced by a lingering uneasiness. I patrol the same trails with a newfound trepidation, haunted by the sensation that those deep-set eyes are still watching me from the shadows. Whatever creature I faced that evening, it serves as a stark reminder of the uncharted and untamed wilderness that remains beyond our comprehension. Allow me to share a rather unusual incident that occurred during one of my night shifts a couple of years ago. It was late autumn, and the nights in Lafayette, Louisiana, were gradually becoming cooler. I was still fulfilling my duties as a responding officer on the graveyard shift. Lafayette, like any other place, had its own set of peculiarities, including local lore and mysterious occurrences. Despite encountering my fair share of unusual situations in the city, the one I'm about to recount stands out among the rest, and to this day I haven't found a concrete explanation. Mid-shift, I received a distress call from residents near the swamps, reporting strange and loud noises during the night. Initially, I thought it might be related to wildlife, although it wasn't exactly my area of expertise. Nevertheless, given the slow night, I decided to drive out and investigate. As I approached the swamp area, a distinct sense of unease began to creep over me. It was an inexplicable discomfort that I attributed to the late hour and perhaps an excess of caffeine in my system. If you haven't experienced living in the southern regions, let me tell you, swamps exude a unique kind of silent enchantment during the daytime, and at night, that enchantment can take on an unsettling quality. Despite the lively sounds of nocturnal creatures in the swamp, the night was unusually quiet. Even the chatter on the police radio seemed hushed. As I turned off the main road onto a less-traveled dirt path leading to the house, the earthy aroma of swamp mud and moss filled the air. Upon arriving, I surveyed the surroundings with my car's headlights and flashlight, casting beams over the vast swamp that enveloped the property. Approaching the house, I knocked on the door and was greeted by a jittery old man, clearly distressed by what he had experienced. He spoke of bizarre nightly noises, starting as a soft hush and escalating into a loud wail, always concluding with a frantic splash in the waters. My initial thought was that it could be some wild animal. Leaving my patrol car nearby, I cautiously ventured on foot toward the swamp's edge, avoiding any potential hazards. I scanned the trees with my flashlight, searching for clues to the source of the disturbance. The thick veil of Spanish moss on sprawling oak branches created eerie shadows as I strained my ears over the cacophony of crickets, frogs, and the gentle night breeze. The swamp, alive with its own tranquility, seemed different that night, but I dismissed it as the quiet of the night playing tricks on my mind. Continuing along the swamp edge, I took slow, vigilant steps, keenly listening. This was swampland, where a misstep could lead to marsh or an encounter with a gator. Halfway through my perimeter check, something made me freeze. The flashlight illuminated a large moving shadow against the darkness of the bushes. Darker than the night, it stirred an unsettling feeling within me. A rustle in the air was followed by a low hum, a vibration more felt than heard. Instinctively, I drew my gun, struggling to steady my hand as adrenaline surged through my body, preparing for a potential confrontation. Suddenly, the creature emerged from the foliage. It had a humanoid body with disproportionately long limbs, standing at a height of 5 to 6 feet. What startled me even more were its large bat-like wings, resembling oversized umbrellas extending from its back. The creature, black as night and covered in what appeared to be feathers, lacked a face but possessed 2 large, glowing red eyes. Reality seemed to blur as the creature unfolded its wings and leapt into the sky, causing the trees to shudder in its wake. I scrambled to my feet, filled with a mix of terror and astonishment, and retreated to the safety of my patrol car without informing the property owner. Back at the precinct, I recounted the night's events, enduring jokes and ribbing from colleagues. Despite the skepticism, I knew what I had witnessed. The old man, I heard later, vacated his house and sold the property, eager to distance himself from the swamps. Can't say I blame him. Subsequent nights patrolling near the swamp felt different. The silence heavier, the darkness somehow darker. The swamp transformed from a dynamic landscape into a veil masking the unknown and unseen. Every hoot, every splash triggers memories of that bewildering encounter. Word spread in the small town, and soon whispers circulated about the creature of Lafayette. A strange satisfaction washed over me, knowing I wasn't the only one who had seen it. This story unfolded around 7 years ago during one of our customary late-night drives, my wife and I. We cherished these drives, navigating through quiet, desolate roads where solitude enveloped us, providing a temporary escape from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Aimless drives became our way of connecting, surrounded by the gentle hum of the radio, playing classic tunes that resonated with the night. The locations we traversed were often remote, surrounded by thick woods that stretched endlessly on both sides of the road. The thrill of exploring the unknown, pointing out random things, and speculating about the lives within the houses we passed became our shared ritual, unspoken but immensely valued in our long-standing marriage. On this particular night, the dusk had seamlessly transitioned into a clear, starry sky, and the moon cast its glow upon our journey. It was, without a doubt, the perfect night, until it abruptly deviated from its peaceful course. Approaching a sharp bend, an acrid and nauseating stench disrupted the tranquility. It was not the typical scent of damp earth or leaves, but something sinister, something that resonated with a foreboding sense of wrongness. My wife, quick to sense my discomfort, hastily rolled up her window and her face contorted in response to the putrid odor. As someone intimately acquainted with the nuances of woodland scents, I couldn't dismiss this as a mere inconvenience. There was an unsettling quality to this odor, a palpable sense that whatever awaited us around the bend was far from benign. As we slowed down, attempting to decipher the source of the rancid smell, a guttural growl shattered the stillness of the night. It resonated louder than the truck's engine, and we could not deny the fact that it made us feel extremely uncomfortable. The unnerving part was the creature's lack of fear, as it remained unfazed by the truck's presence, headlights, honking, or even my desperate shouts. Glowing yellow eyes emerged from the shadows, positioned higher than one would expect from a typical forest dweller. A bear standing on its hind legs crossed my mind, but the instinctive fear I felt suggested otherwise. The eyes, seemingly attached to a moving entity, bounced rhythmically, our gaze fixated, a silhouette materialized from the shadows and illuminated by our headlights. It was a figure of colossal width, broader than any man, and its shape defied the natural order. It stood upright, resembling a dog, but with grotesque proportions. Muscular arms hung down, ending in elongated feet adorned with menacing claws, scraping against the blacktop. A hunched back, powerful thighs, and a snout resembling a dog's elongated mouth completed its eerie silhouette. Terrifyingly intelligent eyes gleamed with malevolence, and the sight of drool dripping from its gnashing jaws heightened the horror. The creature's movement was an unsettling combination of hunched posture and an upright stance, its legs strangely resembling a canine's if designed for bipedal motion. A nightmare seemed to unfold before our eyes as we sat frozen. Covered in tufts of thick fur, the creature's hide oscillated between black and dark brown, challenging clarity under the dim glow of the pickup's headlights. My wife whispered urgently, her voice barely escaping trembling lips, "Drive! Drive now!" Yet my hands remained glued to the steering wheel and fixated on the monstrosity that ambled across the road, indifferent to our presence. Time seemed to distort as we witnessed the creature disappear into the dense tree line, leaving behind an acrid stench and an indelible image etched into our memories. The drive home was swallowed by an eerie silence, our attempts to rationalize the encounter proving futile. In the subsequent weeks, revisits to that ominous bend yielded nothing. The encounter left an enduring mark on us and altering the essence of our peaceful drives forever. Every pair of unseen glowing eyes on nocturnal roads and every unexplained movement in the woods served as haunting reminders of that inexplicable encounter. The tranquility we once found in our drives was forever replaced by an unsettling undercurrent of dread. During our family vacation in a secluded cabin nestled deep within the heart of the Canadian wilderness, winter had cast its spell and turning the landscape into a pristine canvas of dazzling white snow. Our escape from the city's hustle to the serene northern forests promised a week of quality family time, an opportunity for my kids to embrace nature beyond the confines of malls, movie theaters, and theme parks. The yearning for fresh air, starry night skies, and a reminder that the world extended beyond our urban cocoon drove me to plan this trip, initially met with skepticism from my wife, who eventually yielded to the excitement building in our kids and the anticipation reflected in my eyes. The clear, cold day we pulled up to the cabin greeted us with a biting chill that sliced through our winter attire. As we stepped out, exhaling clouds of visible breath into the crisp air, the escape from urban clamor to this rustic haven seemed perfect. There were no screens, no constant hum of traffic, only the symphony of nature's sounds. It was precisely the retreat I had envisioned. Amidst settling into our rooms and igniting a cozy fire in the fireplace, the kids immersed themselves in the novelty of their new playground, snowball fights, building snowmen, and reveling in the enchantment of the surroundings. My wife and I, content by the fire with cups of hot cocoa, watched the kids with smiles. As the sun dipped below the horizon, signaling the end of the day, we engaged in a board game session in front of the fireplace, and the night unfolded without any disturbance, or so I believed. The morning that followed was marked by the aroma of breakfast already underway by the time I woke up. The kids, eager to resume their outdoor adventures, were full of energy. Our day unfolded as expected, exploring the woods, discovering a nearby sledding hill, and attempting ice fishing on a frozen lake. Another evening passed with board games and shared laughter. Nightfall brought with it an unanticipated disturbance, a faint otherworldly sound, a cross between a mournful howl and a distressed cry, echoing in the distance. Unsure if it was an animal, perhaps a wolf, so I dismissed it and succumbing once again to oblivious slumber. The subsequent day unfolded a reality veering from our idyllic expectations. Signs of something amiss began to emerge like a trail of large footprints in the snow, wider than any known animal. As night descended, the haunting cry returned, but now a lot closer, shattering the usual serenity of the cabin's night sounds. It clawed at my senses, unsettling and discomforting. The children, now hearing it too, displayed visible unease. We assured them it was just an animal, ignorant of the impending reality that awaited us. Determined to discern the source of the nocturnal disturbance, I resolved to stay awake that night. Despite rationalizing with myself, an eerie premonition clung to me, a feeling that a malevolent force was closing in. The next morning, armed with provisions and a hunting knife, I set out into the woods following the trail left behind by the mysterious intruder. The path led me to a silent clearing, where my boots encountered something other than snow. Bone fragments scattered around, emitting a nauseating stench of putrefied flesh. The realization struck hard, and as I pivoted to flee, my eyes met the monstrous creature lurking at the edge of the clearing. Towering at least 8 feet with antlers crowning its skull-like head, it defied any known species inhabiting Canadian woods. Its skeletal frame exuded the foul odor of decay, and its eyeless sockets emitted an eerie yellow glow. Legs resembling those of an elk, grotesquely adorned with hanging appendages, supported the monstrous entity. Terror rooted me to the spot as our eyes locked, and a swift retreat ensued, the creature's footsteps pounding ominously behind me. Reaching the safety of the cabin, I barred the door, breathless and shaken. Throughout the night, I remained vigilant, peering out the window for any sign of movement. Poppy, my eldest daughter, joined me silently, offering solace with a wordless embrace. Sleep eluded us as the first rays of sun finally bathed the cabin and bringing a wave of relief. We had survived, and our departure back to the city, with its artificial stars and traffic noise, marked the end of our tranquil wilderness retreat. While I wouldn't rule out future ventures into the wilderness, this encounter had instilled a newfound sense of caution. In the aftermath, I've come to appreciate the value of awareness over ignorance, acknowledging that nature's wonders can also harbor unforeseen perils. I have been involved in the real estate business for a good couple of years now, focusing on flipping houses for a living. Through my journey, I have encountered my fair share of peculiar situations in the basements of the houses we have dealt with, but the recent experience at this Long Island property stands out in an entirely unique way. This particular residence boasts a rich history dating back to the late 1800s and showcasing a classic Queen Anne architectural style. With its high-pitched roofs, a sprawling wraparound porch, intricate decorative shutters, beautiful wood trim, and expansive stained glass windows, the house is a testament to its era. Despite its age, the entire structure appears remarkably well preserved. The previous occupants, an elderly couple in their 90s, met their demise on the same day in the master bedroom. A circumstance that raised eyebrows, but at the time, I didn't delve too deep into it. With no heirs to inherit the property, the house found itself on the auction block, with the interior remaining a mystery, as auction protocols only disclosed external features. Undeterred, I placed my best bid and emerged victorious. My initial plan involved a complete overhaul and renovation, a standard approach for the foreclosure properties prevalent in the house flipping domain. These houses typically suffer from neglect, with broken windows, doors ajar, and sometimes even graffiti adorning their interiors. Yet stepping into this manor was akin to stepping into a time capsule. Every corner reflected an impeccable state and defying the passage of time. Even the kitchen showcased a working gas stove, a functional refrigerator, and an immaculately clean sink. Rare gem these days. Opening the toilet seat revealed pristine white porcelain, a stark contrast to the unsettling discovery awaiting me in the master bedroom. The attic had collapsed, creating a distressing scene. As I peered through the open floorboards, the entire room looked chaotic, with debris scattered all around. Optimistically, I decided to turn the situation around by envisioning a master bedroom with high vaulted ceilings. However, as the renovation progressed, peculiar challenges began to emerge. Attempting to unscrew something resulted in mysteriously reassembled screws, and painting the hallway walls turned into a game of missing paintbrushes. An unsettling incident occurred when we replaced the stove. My friend, assisting me, inexplicably developed a severe cough, which ceased the moment we exited the room. Reports of eerie noises circulated among the crew, with one recounting a laughter episode in the bathroom, only to find himself alone upon turning around. The following day, landscapers arrived to enhance the surroundings. Unaware of our experiences, they later accused us of pranking them as their tools mysteriously relocated to an upstairs bedroom. Despite our assurances, confusion prevailed as no one admitted to moving the tools. Increasingly uneasy, I sought to expedite the renovations, wary of spending more time within the confines of the house. Concerns arose about the experiences awaiting the next inhabitants. Curiosity led me to uncover that the elderly couple, just before their tragic demise, had contemplated selling the property for a more modern condo down south. They had actively browsed online listings, sharing links with friends only a day before their demise. The thought lingered. Did the house somehow react to their intentions? The collapsed attic, after decades of stability, hinted at an aversion to change. Perhaps an unseen force resisted the introduction of new elements. It all felt inexplicably strange. As we wrap up the final renovations this week, the property will hit the market in a fortnight. The open house awaits, and I hope for a smooth transition to new ownership. I'll keep you posted on any developments. Wish me luck. Tumalo Falls in Oregon has been my go-to hiking spot for as long as I can remember. My love for hiking was ingrained in me during my early years when my dad carried me in a backpack, traversing hills and canyons. Our family vacations were always centered around hiking trails, and it became a tradition that I carried into my adulthood. Upon relocating to Oregon, I eagerly sought out the best hiking spots to fill my weekends and days off from work. Tumalo Falls quickly became my favorite. The trek to the top of the waterfall, with its scenic views and the abundance of off-the-beaten-path areas to explore, combined with the soothing sound of the waterfall, made it a perfect getaway. Surprisingly, the lack of crowds added to its allure, creating a serene escape. One day, however, my usual solitary hike took an unexpected turn. I encountered a fellow hiker who appeared peculiar. His demeanor exuded paranoia, beads of sweat forming on his forehead as he struggled to maintain composure. Approaching me urgently, he inquired about our location and the current year. Upon learning it was 2007, a wave of relief washed over him. He warned me not to proceed further into the woods before swiftly heading towards the parking area. Unfazed by his unease, I pressed on, intrigued by whatever had rattled him. The woods seemed unremarkable as I ventured deeper. Confused, I retraced my steps, only to realize that the once clear walking paths had vanished. Panic set in, questioning if I had strayed too far or if the paths were now imperceptible. Recalling my father's advice, I used a red handkerchief from my pocket to mark a tree branch, attempting to prevent myself from walking in circles. As I continued, more peculiarities revealed themselves. A section of mud displayed tracks resembling those of numerous horses following a distinct path. Intrigued, I followed the hoofprints, anticipating an encounter with riders from a local stable club. However, as I crested a hill, the scene before me defied belief. Cowboys on horseback and covered wagons reminiscent of an old Western movie. Assuming it was a historical reenactment, I approached, eager to appreciate their authenticity up close. To my surprise, their reaction was not one of historical role-playing enthusiasts. Their gaze upon my dark skin triggered an immediate defensive response with guns drawn. In a bewildering moment, I found myself at the wrong end of several firearms. Questions about my tribal affiliation filled the air as they scanned the horizon for more perceived threats. Despite my attempts to explain their misjudgment, they remained perplexed, insisting I not send anyone else. Their dismissal prompted me to abandon my original intent of complimenting their authenticity. The tension escalated when a woman commented on our supposedly odd attire. Deciding it was best to leave, I turned to head back, only for a gunshot to echo near my feet, emphasizing the reality of the weapons pointed at me. Fear propelled me to run until I found the handkerchief marking my path back to safety. Strangely, the once invisible trails reappeared as I retraced my steps. Reflecting on the bizarre encounter, I later stumbled upon online accounts of portals to the past appearing in secluded areas throughout history. Convinced that I had unknowingly traversed such a portal, the vivid details of that day left an indelible mark on my memory. Whether you believe it or not, this is my story, my personal experience,